Hi guys, you read the title right. I've heard enough. I've seen enough. I'm ready to give my very unlicensed final prediction on this NewJeans and ADOR case. The judge is also ready, and he is set to make a verdict on October 30th if the August 14th mediation fails. I guess I can start there. I predict that mediation will definitely fail. NewJeans did exactly what I said they shouldn't do, which is gain false confidence from the police, concluding their investigation into Min Heejin with no charges. They have already reverted back to uncompromising demands and emotional appeals. Let's go over what happened at this latest hearing. NewJeans' side insists that this legal fight is the result of HYBE launching a retaliatory audit of Min Heejin and ADOR under the premise that she was attempting to seize management control of the agency. She was placed under police investigation for breach of duty, but no charges were brought forth. They see this as proof that the allegations against her never had merit and was simply a scheme to drive her out the company. Due to this, they can no longer trust ADOR, which has transformed into a company of HYBE staff. They associate the generous settlements and thoughtful support they experienced at ADOR with Min Heejin's tenure as CEO. Let me respond to this first. The police never said the audit was launched under false pretenses or that it was retaliatory. Actually, they declared the audit was legal and totally legitimate. NewJeans is doing what Min Heejin basically did after securing the first injunction, which is taking an inch and making it a mile. This will ultimately be to their detriment, because I believe they'll take this attitude with them into mediation, which is a non-starter for any kind of compromise. ADOR straight up calls NewJeans' unilateral contract termination attempt unreasonable and accuses Min Heejin of masterminding the entire thing. They presented the court with alleged private messages from Min Heejin procured during the audit, some of which date back almost 3 years ago. The content of the messages suggest a long-term plan to exit HYBE and take NewJeans with her. These plans included pushing narratives in the media, like the illit plagiarism allegations. ADOR even says that Min Heejin's legal team crafted NewJeans' termination notice. Additionally, the company highlighted the broader implications of this case on not just ADOR, but also NewJeans and the K-pop industry as a whole. ADOR states that maintaining the contract would allow NewJeans to avoid the image of celebrities who don't keep their promises and free them from looming penalties. If the contract is terminated, it would begin a path toward K-pop's collapse. ADOR would have difficulty maintaining staff, and the court even acknowledged that the company's existence would be at stake in that scenario. Let me address this segment. Regarding ADOR's assertions about Min Heejin plotting an exit strategy with NewJeans, I 1000% believe that. Those of you who've been around since the start of my YouTube journey would know I've had these suspicions since last year, and I even put together a deep dive video on this theory that was never released. Mainly because I hesitated to paint the girls and their families in that light, because no matter how you slice it, these allegations will always reflect poorly on them as well. ADOR was smart to emphasize that the onus of their allegations falls on Min Heejin, and their trust in the members is unwavering as they await their return. However, Min Heejin's days in that company were inevitably numbered the second that audit was launched, so I agree it's important that ADOR demonstrates they were aware of this reality and planning protective measures for NewJeans along the way. With that being said, though, this is a conversation the members could have had with the agency in a business meeting. This didn't need to be litigated in a courtroom, because that's not a valid reason for terminating an exclusive contract. If your agency is going through a management shift, you're supposed to work together with them to ingratiate the new system. As stated by the injunction judge, NewJeans also have an obligation to do what's reasonably necessary to maintain the exclusive contract. Every business has growing pains, and you don't get to just walk out because things aren't perfect. NewJeans' legal team accused ADOR of making Hani out to be a liar by contradicting her account of Ignoregate. This caused her and the other members to be slammed in the media, exacerbating their feelings of neglect. NewJeans members experience emotional distress from just being near the company building and have even had to take antidepressants. This is not a simple contract dispute in their eyes. This dilemma has affected their entire personalities. Compelling them to return to ADOR would be like telling a victim of school violence to go back and endure it. The ADOR that dispersed generous settlements and offered thoughtful support under Min Heejin no longer exists. In its place is a company full of HYBE officials and a completely shattered foundation of trust. It's like a cell phone with a changed SIM card. Can it really be considered the same phone? Okay, stop. What in the Dr. Seuss is going on here? Shel Silverstein could never, Edgar Allan Poe would be jealous of this display. Sejong had metaphors and analogies flying out the wazoo. In all seriousness, though, I want to address the members' mental health here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The mental, emotional, and even physical toll this dispute has taken on the NewJeans members is very apparent. Anyone in this situation, whether they were right or wrong, would undoubtedly be going through a lot right now. When I say these are emotional appeals, that's not me saying their struggles are illegitimate or imaginary. It's a descriptive claim meant to highlight that these aren't legal arguments. If NewJeans spent more time laying out significant abuses that they had faced and substantiated it with solid evidence, they could then supplement that with these statements. The disconnect here is that their mental health struggles are very real, but their struggles alone aren't evidence that the company breached their contracts. This part has to come first, meaning they have to prove that the company committed such egregious acts and that their mental health struggles are a direct result of this. They failed to do that during the injunction stage. Like the Ignore Gate example, NewJeans' legal team accused ADOR of painting Honey as a liar, thus inflicting mental distress. To be frank, I'm done talking about Ignore Gate because it's obvious that no one is really interested in understanding the facts or keeping up with the real details. Anyone who is would know that the footage ADOR submitted in court is the same footage both sides already agreed had existed for months. The company released a statement saying they believed Honey's words. They did not show that footage to prove the ignore comment didn't happen. They showed that footage as a direct rebuttal to NewJeans' legal team, saying Illit ostracized, harassed, and mocked Honey as part of some systematic exclusionary culture. If that were the case, Illit would have never greeted Honey at all, and the remaining footage was not intentionally deleted. It expired as per CCTV laws. All ADOR was trying to do was prove that they had taken every measure they possibly could to follow up on these concerns and fulfill their duty related to this. One of the very first videos I ever made was about Ignore Gate following the National Assembly, and my take then has been pretty much vindicated. I said I did not believe Honey made this story up out of thin air, and she has never presented herself to be the kind of person even capable of that. However, I can believe she'd stretch it for the sake of Min Heejin, because I've seen that dynamic between them in the past. Lo and behold, that's basically the narrative ADOR presented to court by revealing those private messages between Honey and Min Heejin. My final thoughts on Ignore Gate is this. Honey, I'm sorry that happened to you. However, I don't predict the judge will buy this as a point to terminate an exclusive contract. The hate Illit has received behind this situation is heart-wrenching, and I think it's best for everyone, including NewJeans, if we just put this issue to bed. Next, Sejong disputes ADOR's assertion that injunction rulings supersede the police's no-charge decision because there is no evidence investigation process. One thing I've learned since researching these cases is that there is a long history of contention between the Korean court system and police departments. It's mainly a power struggle over who has more authority, who should be able to command the other, etc. I would never claim to know more than actual legal professionals, but I do question how well this will go over with the judge. I find it hard to believe that any court would just jump at the opportunity to agree that police decisions hold more weight than judicial ones. Plus, police don't carry the burden of setting precedent the same way court systems do. One wrong ruling could destabilize entire industries, so judges have more responsibility they're forced to adhere to. ADOR is doing a good job of appealing to court precedent and establishing the necessity of a ruling in their favor. For example, ADOR states that if NewJeans' termination arguments are validated, it could destroy the foundation of the K-pop industry. They describe the essence of this case as NewJeans' side attempting to shift the risk of failure onto ADOR and monopolize the fruits of success. That point is almost a one-to-one echo of what the Seoul High Court's ruling said on this issue. When denying NewJeans' injunction appeal, the High Court called it unreasonable for NewJeans to monopolize future benefits when the key to their success came from ADOR and HYBE's support. ADOR is hammering home past rulings in their favor and laying out precedent for the judge to rule with on a silver platter. Korean attorney Ko Sang-rok gave a pretty definitive take on this as well, saying it's difficult to have any meaningful conversation with someone who has not yet accepted that NewJeans is losing this lawsuit. Even attorney Song HYBE, head lawyer at OPE's law firm which represents Team Bunnies, has also called for NewJeans to return to ADOR and accept at least a partial loss. NewJeans did say they would agree to return, but if, and only if, the company reverted back to Min Heejin's ADOR. No. It's not 2024, and yes, we are indeed seeing demands for Min Heejin to be reinstated as CEO of ADOR all the way in July 2025. She's been out the company for more than half a year, and likely busy with numerous lawsuits. A lot of ADOR's original staff did resign with her, but not all of them. Many members of that old team are still in the company, and some are even working on ADOR's boy group project. Sorry girls, but that's the closest it's going to get because Min Heejin's ADOR is never coming back. NewJeans is leaving ADOR because Min Heejin left ADOR. Like I said before, that's all fine and good if that's what they want to choose. However, that's not a valid reason for terminating an exclusive contract. NewJeans has basically no leverage to demand something like this, and ADOR probably wouldn't agree if they did. Actually, now is a good time for me to address that peace agreement, penned by a group of NewJeans fans on DC Inside. These bunnies released a formal statement calling for the dispute to be resolved in mediation, with 5 points of compromise. First of all, they asked for mutual apologies between HYBE, Min Heejin, and NewJeans. Secondly, sincere efforts must be made to heal fandom divides and solve conflict amongst supporters, such as collaborative idol content. Next, they ask for Min Heejin to be allowed back as CEO of ADOR in exchange for concessions like a relinquishing of her put options. Additionally, their fourth request is for a revision of the shareholder agreement with stipulations that prevent HYBE from appointing ADOR board members and dismissing the CEO. Lastly, they'd like to see sincere and committed activities from Min Heejin and NewJeans that truly solidify the multi-label system. I'm just going to say off the rip that all of this is too little too late. There was a time for a compromise like this, but it was wasted and squandered. So I want to say that my view on a statement like this would have been different a year ago, but these fans just took way too long to come back down to earth. The first and third requests would require Min Heejin to acknowledge that her removal as CEO was even somewhat justified, and that HYBE had real reason to lose trust in her regarding that role. Obviously, she will never do this, and that makes this entire compromise plan a non-starter. Plus, it would make no sense to reinstate Min Heejin as CEO after everything ADOR and HYBE have accused her of. That would be HYBE repeating the same mistake that got them into this mess the first time. One of the worst things you can do for the culture of your company is reward bad behavior. She was said to be missing deadlines that significantly delayed the debut of NewJeans in Source Music and eventually gutted them of staff when ADOR was established. This allegedly led to the disbandment of G-Friend, which forced Source Music to rush Lesser Efim's debut for income. HYBE rewarded her for this by gifting her a label, with Bang Si-hyuk personally loaning her money to become part owner. Her shareholder agreement was a sweetheart deal, honestly, with hefty put options and protection for her CEO position. HYBE helped compel Source Music to transfer the NewJeans members to ADOR after everything they say she did to obstruct the business of another subsidiary. Now, I know HYBE did this because they wanted to make money, and it was always their plan to debut NewJeans. But allowing her to still be at the helm basically validated her methods and emboldened her to continue acting that way. Choosing to reinstate her as CEO of ADOR now sends the message that you can get what you want out of HYBE by basically holding them hostage. Before we get into final predictions, I want to highlight something kind of like an honourable mention. There is a possibility that NewJeans loses this case on a purely procedural basis, meaning there were questions in the beginning of the trial about whether they had adhered to the 14-day grace period correctly and if their termination notice could stand because of that. If the judge is hesitant to go into the weeds here, this may be a bit of a cop-out ruling. The contract is still ruled valid in this scenario, but we wouldn't really get to the meat and potatoes of everything. That's not the ending I anticipate, though. My prediction is that NewJeans will lose this case, and the final ruling will be reminiscent of the Seoul High Courts. The original injunction judge was somewhat diplomatic in his ruling, but the appeal court did not hold back. Keep in mind that ruling was made by a panel of judges who all pretty much came to the same conclusions. I believe that opened the door for this main case judge to be more direct, which makes me interested to hear what he'll have to say. ADOR has made it clear they're not actively seeking damages right now. They're seeking to bring the girls back into the company. They filed this lawsuit to confirm the contracts are valid, not seek a termination fee. I believe they'll get what they want and then use this ruling to go after other parties as well. Lawsuit hell doesn't end when this case is over, and that's a reality NewJeans will have to contend with. ADOR probably won't take further action against any members that choose to return to the company, even though I think some HYBE fandoms would be disappointed by that outcome. I'm ready to give a firm take on that as well. I don't think any of the members are returning to ADOR. I don't see a situation where some stay and some leave. It's more likely that they all make the same decision together, and I predict they'll choose to walk. They've communicated on multiple occasions that they would rather sacrifice financially than return to the company. I think Danielle attending an Omega event with ADOR had more to do with her not wanting to upset the court further than it did with the injunction violation fee. I've said in the past, I was unsure about whether they'd return once the case concludes, mainly because I did not believe they were fully aware of the repercussions they stand to face. I was still leaning toward them all choosing to walk, but seeing some fans and even lawyers on their side soften to the idea of them going back gave me pause. In hindsight, though, Danielle's sentiment during the injunction hearing was the God-honest truth. Regardless of the outcome of this trial, these girls have no intention of ever returning to ADOR. This case may end up being the appetizer to a full-course litigation meal. If this ruling allows them to, then I believe ADOR will directly sue Min Heejin. I do not put it past the company to sue NewJeans families as well. I really just don't. Then, of course, there will be litigation against the girls themselves, and ADOR has already asserted itself in this way. They are not afraid to do what they have to do in a court of law for their business. It is in NewJeans' best interest to wrap this up in mediation on August 14th. I'm not confident they will, but October 30th is going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people. Normally, I would never say I told you so in a situation like this. I'm not a sociopath, so I don't take pleasure in watching young women self-destruct. However, after losing a channel to rabid fans and enduring some of the most outrageous accusations ever in my comment section, I think it's earned. I guess that's all. Be well, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.